Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior professional from the US, Andrea Butcher. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's so good to see you. Happy New Year. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to connect with you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Andrea is the Chief Executive Officer of HRD Advisory Group. She's on the board of Junior Achievement of Central Indiana, which is the Indiana Chamber of Commerce. She's a 500 Circle mentor for Pass the Torch for Women, and she co-founded Next Gen Talent. So, Andrea, with so much amazing experience in the world of human resources, before we start talking human resources, tell me a little bit about your own journey.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's always funny to hear a bio, isn't it? Because there's all these things behind the bio that people don't see,
Correct.
all of the bumps and the bruises and the hard work. And I feel so grateful to get to do the work that I do through HRD and Next Gen Talent. I mean, I have always been passionate about the potential within people. There are stories that my parents will tell or that I'll remember from early days in school where I noticed someone not being included, or I noticed someone, not leveraging a strength or a gift and just wanting to pull them in. I have such a calling for giving people an opportunity to shine.
Wow.
I believe absolutely that every single human being has purpose, has potential, has goodness within them. And I want to be a catalyst for growth and encouragement. And I'm fortunate that I get to do that every single day.
Fascinating. Fascinating. So, I've spoken to a lot of HR leaders, and a question that I've often asked them is that, in 1980, when I was a young manager in a large company, the human resources function was really the personnel manager who was focused more on payroll. And if you had a factory, it was industrial relations. Today, it's become the CHRO and a key part of the C-suite. My question to you is, what has changed and evolved in the HR function over the last 3 or 4 decades?
I think we have changed and evolved. And so expectations of the workforce are very different today than they were in the 80s, than they were when I first got into the position. And I'm so grateful for the evolution. I think today HR leaders have such an opportunity to impact the business through a talent and a people lens in a way that they didn't before. I mean, it's really what I was talking about previously, like my why. I think that's why a lot of HR leaders join the profession, is to maximize the potential and the capabilities of the people that they're serving. And HR leaders are in a much better position to do that today than they were in the 80s. And it just so happens that the workforce is demanding it. We want to have a relationship with our business. We want our business to be about much more than profits.
Correct.
We want our business to be a place that we can grow and develop and improve. And so businesses are rising to the challenge. And if they don't, I mean, they're just not going to be competitive.
And yet, there are some CHROs who even told me that in their organizations, they've become profit centers.
Yeah.
And I'm wanting to get your perspective on how has the CHRO's role become such a critical part of the CEO's inner circle?
Yeah, because we're recognizing that businesses don't grow, people do. And only by tapping into and leveraging the strengths and the giftedness of the people in our businesses. I mean, that is the business. That is the business. Right. And that's the future of the business. And so we've got to connect with the people and understand the talent that's there and go so much deeper. One of the things that I appreciate about the pandemic is I'm such an optimist. I'm always looking on the bright side, right?
Yep.
So one of the things I appreciate is the opportunity to peer into each other's lives in ways we never have before. I really think it created much more of a level ground for talent to show up in ways they hadn't before. And it's interesting because we're showing up virtually, but you're also seeing a part of my life that hadn't been shown previously. And that elicited I believe that elicited all these parts of the human that had previously been, let's just keep that down. Let's focus more surface. And we just aren't anymore. I mean, team members are demanding authenticity and real and transparency in ways they haven't had, because we've been real and transparent over the last couple of years. And it's going to be interesting to see how that evolution continues and what becomes of that.
Well said. What a great response. Thank you. So, continuing with the pandemic, I think HR leaders have probably faced the biggest brunt of the pandemic because of the people issues.
Yes.
What, in your opinion, has changed probably for the better as a result of the pandemic?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you won't be surprised to hear me say it's just it's a focus on mental health is a real opportunity. And so being a visionary, people forward focused leader, I spend a lot of time like pouring into and loving on my team. And we've had, I've been with HRD for 5.5 years now, and every year at the beginning of the year we spend time on strategy and goals and making sure that people get really clear about their focus for the year. Something that we did this year, and we started it yesterday. We started it in December, but we started the conversation yesterday, was much more of a focus on the personal. How are you personally growing? And how are you taking care of yourself? And we're giving all of our team members 2 inspiration days this year on top of their PTO and their holidays. We want everybody to just take a day to get inspired, like whatever you do. And I think that HR leaders across industries, across organizations, are really leaning into the mental health of their workforce. And I mean, and you've seen that, right? There's all kinds of ways in which they're doing that, with access to mental health care in ways that hasn't been before, and just talking about it so much more. And and for me, for the first time, like yesterday, I said to my teams, like, I want you to take care of yourselves first and foremost this year, because I know that you're only going to serve our clients and our customers and our partners when you are filled, when you are in a good place. So I think that's the message I'm hearing from a lot of clients, and certainly that we're talking about internally.
Amazing. I also want to talk to you a little bit about the great resignation, and then someone else said about the great termination. So there seem to be a lot of resignations and a lot of terminations happening. What are your perspectives?
I love it. I love it. I think I've also heard it referred to as the Great Awakening, and that really resonates with me. I think, as an executive coach, I work with a lot of leaders just on helping them to find, like, what is their why? What is their purpose? And I think over the last couple of years, we've just seen masses of people like asking questions about life and what do I want? And what do I want my experience to be? And I think that's fantastic. I mean, because that is such important work. And the pandemic and the mortality that came with it really caused a lot of people to wake up to parts of themselves that they hadn't been thinking about or reflecting on. And so I think it's an indication of a much bigger movement. I mean, I am such a spiritual, philosophical person, and I believe that whenever things are happening, there's always a bigger picture why. And for me, that the great resignation and people leaving their organizations is an indication that there's something stirring inside them. And I think that's a good stir.
Absolutely. And you're so right, because I'm from the boomers generation. And for me, it was only work, work, and work. I mean, we couldn't even think of taking a day off if you changed jobs. You finished on Friday evening and started work on a Monday morning. But things have changed very dramatically. And thank you for telling me it's all for the better. But, moving on, I will come to some questions on coaching, but I've got another 5-6 minutes of discussion on human resources, because it's always good to have such a senior leader like you talk on human resources. There's also a lot of technology that's being brought into the human resources function.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. I'd love to get your
Yeah.
thoughts on what is
Yeah.
really happening.
And it's overwhelming. I mean, there's just so much.
Mm.
So you alluded to in the intro, you talked about another organization that I lead called
Yeah,
Next Gen Talent.
yeah.
And the sole focus of that organization is equipping emerging HR and talent
Mhm,
leaders
mhm,
to build business skills. And we spend 2 months on
mhm.
technology
Wow.
because there's so much.
Mm,
So there certainly is like, what are the skills that, not even HR, but I think executives and leaders, what are their technology skills that are needed and how do you stay up to date?
mhm,
But there's also then the marketplace, that the
mm,
HR technology space just continues to grow.
mm,
And so I always highlight an organization called Select Software Reviews.
mhm,
They're in Boston in the in the United States, but they have done a fabulous job of vetting
mm,
the hundreds and in some cases thousands of technologies that are on the market
mhm,
in different categories. There's the HRIS systems, there's the employee experience systems, there's ATSs. I bucket it in those three ways just because it's easy for me to think about those three. The
mm,
employee experience softwares, that's a huge category with a lot of subcategories.
mhm,
But if you kind of think of it in those ways, Select Software Reviews has done a really good job of looking at all the technology that's available
mhm,
and then providing expertise around ease of use and how to work with the system and a lot of guidance around how to source technology.
mhm,
Where do I start? And
mm,
and for me, it always starts with the business case,
mm,
right? Recognizing what it is that your business needs and clearly documenting that and aligning with stakeholders internally, and
mhm,
then going to the market to see what are the tools that are both or that are most going to solve for that.
mm. Interesting. Um, my next question to you is partly related to the pandemic, and which is that, and I've been talking to a lot of young millennial and Gen Z leaders, where I think work from home has now become a part of
Yeah,
normal life. It
yeah.
isn't as if now that the pandemic is getting over, you get back to your 5 day week or 40 hours a week. What do you think that work from home is now permanently going to be a part of the young people's uh, expectations from work?
I do, and I
Mhm.
don't know for certain. I mean, it just based on my experience and what I hear from
Absolutely.
clients and what I see. And I would say even one step further, I think it's work from anywhere.
Mm.
I have a lot of colleagues and clients that are taking trips and extending their trips, and well, I'll just work from California or I'll just work from London because I can.
Mm.
So much of the work that we do
Mm.
is lends itself
Mm.
to virtual and remote connection.
Mm.
And I don't know what that means for manufacturing or healthcare. I think in those industries, we have to look at other ways to bring in flexibility because I don't know that I really don't think it's as much about working from anywhere. I
Mm.
think it's about autonomy and flexibility and
Mm.
people feeling like they have some control over their lives and
Mm.
that they can do the things that are important to them.
Mm.
So if we can figure out ways to create experiences that allow for more autonomy and flexibility in industries where people can't work from home, I
Mm.
think it will help solve for some
Well
of that.
said. Well said. But yet, the other question that I've often wondered is that most corporations are looking for succession planning from their young people.
Yeah.
Now, if a lot of the young people stop looking at a permanent career, what happens to leadership in the future?
Yeah, I think it becomes much more agile,
Mm.
doesn't it? And I
Mm.
think, the leadership development work that we do, we talk a lot about wherever you go, there you are.
Mm.
And the lines between personal professional are so blurry
Mm.
now. And I
Mm.
think that's indicative of what's happening is
Mm.
that I mean look at me. I mean and I am I'm a Gen Xer and
Mhm.
so I'm kind of on that cusp of the millennial Gen Xer.
Mhm.
But at my age, like I want to have multiple businesses and leadership. I mean, you talked about the boards that I'm on. It's not about like one gig. It's a lot of gigs with different aspects, different things that fill me up, different ways to use my gifts. And I think that's the mindset, right? Is I want to take the gifts and talents I have and use them in a lot of different ways. It certainly isn't about going to work for one company for the rest of your career. It's using the gifts and talents I have in lots of different ways.
Fascinating.
And that is going to shape leadership very differently, isn't it?
I agree. Because I often wonder, I mean, whether it's a Procter and Gamble or whether it is a Citibank, where will they get their next leaders who've spent, as they used to say, from the cradle to grave kind of leaders who joined when they were babies and
well, but think, and one thing I would say is that I think the needs of the workforce change. When I went into an office every day and the interactions I had with my coworkers were very different. It did require a different leadership than a remote or virtual leadership. I think the core, the foundation, being clear on focus and mission and being given opportunities to experiment and try and being given feedback and coaching and the core, I think they will show up in different ways, but some of those core skills, I believe, will continue to be just as important as they are today.
Fascinating. So now let's talk a little bit about your other avatar as a coach. Let me start by asking you that how has your background in HR and senior corporate roles supported your coaching philosophy, your style, and your values?
Oh, what a great question. I've never been asked that in that way, and I really like it. So I have spent almost 23 years, I guess now, in the corporate space. Half has been inside of organizations. So I started as an HR generalist, worked for a global organization based in London, doing global HR for several years. I've also led HR for a large security business. And then the other half, 12 plus years, have been in consulting with large organizations like MasterCard and Delta Faucet and Vera Bradley and Allegiant Marathon Health. And so I've had an opportunity to work for huge global organizations.
Correct.
And here's a philosophy that I have. I very much believe that a lot of the employment issues and the drama in the workplace that often lends itself to employee relations issues. I believe that most of those could be mitigated with strong leadership. Very early in my career, I stepped out of an HR generalist role because I really wanted to pour into leaders. I had this sense that if we were spending more time equipping leaders, then these issues would go away. These HR issues would go away. So my philosophy is a very empowering one. I don't believe that I have anything to teach anyone. I have my own leadership challenges. And so my role is to ask questions. My role is to help you uncover what's important to you and then to live that out in an authentic way so that you can connect with people.
Interesting.
And that builds trust, that builds credibility. And so challenges typically dissipate in the face of truth and authenticity. And so when we can be more of who we already are, life just gets a lot easier. Leadership gets a lot easier.
Very, very interesting. My next question to you is that, Andrea, we're all influenced by different people in our lives. And these influences impact us as coaches. I'd love to get your thoughts and your perspectives on how have some of the people influenced your thinking as a coach.
Yeah, what a great question. And it's I'm just seeing all of these faces in my mind's eye right now. I'm just so grateful to have people early in my career that spotted my potential, that encouraged my heart, that encouraged my big ideas and put me into opportunities that I never would have had because I didn't have the bigger picture that they had. I mean,
Right.
that has been huge. And so now at this point in my career, like I am always looking for who are those people that are stepping up and
Mm,
how can I put them in an opportunity to lead?
mm,
There's I'll just give you a quick example. There's leaders in this next gen talent
mhm,
program that I'm leading.
mm,
And one of them told me recently that he really wanted to do more public speaking.
mhm,
And so I'm now looking for opportunities. I had a speaking gig that I invited him to collaborate with me on, and he actually
mhm.
delivered part of it.
Okay.
Recently, I saw another opportunity pop up. And so I'm like, hey, I want you to apply to speak at that. And
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's the key, right? Is that, as senior leaders, we have a broader perspective and purview. And so we have a responsibility to put those opportunities in front of people.
Mm.
That's just one of the things that coaches and mentors in my life have really modeled and helped me to be.
Amazing. So I've got time for two more questions. My next question to you is on culture, and I worked with many, many different people from different parts of the world where culture becomes an important part of working with them. As
Yeah.
a coach, I'm sure you're working with multiple cultures. And of course, you live in a country which is so diverse culturally. My
Yeah.
question is, how does culture impact you interacting with your coachee?
Oh, it's everything. I think of culture as like the environment, the
Mm,
energy between people.
mm,
You can feel it. And we our guard will come down
mhm,
only when the environment is safe to
mhm,
do that.
mm.
And so as a leader, I can't just jump into what are your challenges.
Yeah,
I've not earned the right.
yeah.
I have to take the time to how are you and
Mm,
tell me about you and what are you thinking about? What's important to you right now?
mm,
Building trust and connection. And that creates a culture and an
mm,
environment
mm,
where it's safe. Because all of our jumping off points are different. I mean, there are some people that will just jump right in and start sharing, but there are some people that because of their background, because of their experiences, they're a bit averse to that.
mhm,
And so it takes a little longer to
mm,
build trust and connection for
mm,
that to happen.
mm.
So I think it's all about meeting people where they
Yeah.
are and respecting their boundaries, not making assumptions, respecting their background and their
Mm,
experiences and trusting the process. I mean, we're not going to connect with everyone. We're not going to get all of the goodness from every single interaction or conversation. We have to be willing to hang in there and
mm.
trust the process.
Yeah.
Trust
Thank you.
life.
Yeah, absolutely. Great response. Thank you. And my last question to you, Andrea, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your amazing journey and your entire role in HR and having mentored so many people, having coached so many people, what would you say are three lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away from your own knowledge, experience, and your journey?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is, it is, and I'm trying to think of like the rawest way to say
Mhm.
this is that I really don't have any idea what I'm
Mhm.
doing. You
Mhm.
know, I think so much of the time, like as I'm working with mentors and mentees, they have this sense of like, you've got it figured out.
Mhm.
No, I
Mhm.
will never have it figured out.
Never.
That's part of the beauty of life. And
Mhm.
so letting go, there's a humility in that, but there's also a confidence in that. I
Yeah.
don't say that with like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I say
Mhm.
that with a lot of confidence that
Correct.
because I'm always growing.
Mhm.
Yes, I have had incredible experiences, but I mean, I ain't seen nothing yet.
Mhm.
I have so much that I want to give and
Mhm.
contribute. And
Correct.
it's only in the being willing to admit that I don't really know. It's every day is with a gulp and a sigh. I keep
Mhm.
going. And
Mhm.
if I don't feel like doing something, it's like, okay, then maybe that's what I need to do,
Correct.
and stepping into the to the discomfort of it,
Mhm.
recognizing that Leadership is a daily personal challenge. And that, you know, a lot of times you look at people who have achieved a lot and you think like it happened overnight. No, it doesn't. It happens with showing up every day, showing up and doing it afraid, being willing to say the thing or do the thing when you don't want to. I mean, I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned.
And that's a very, very powerful lesson. And on that note, Andrea, thank you so much for speaking to me about your journey, about a lot of your learnings. Thank you for speaking to me at such great length about human resources. I was particularly impressed with some of your amazing philosophies. And of course, what you said in the end, I don't really know, but I have no problem in admitting I don't know. But life is a daily personal challenge, and we will keep going at it. Thank you also for speaking to me about your coaching philosophies.
Awesome.
Thank you again.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.